I thought it would be nice for us to send our intentions and our love and appreciation to David Wilcock because he made so many contributions to disclosure and to truth. And he truly was on a mission to help humanity. And so, if we can just take a moment, sending our gratitude, our appreciation, our recognition, our love. Thank you, David, for everything that you contributed. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for taking so many hits. We honor you. We honor you tonight. And we send healing to all of his loved ones, his friends and family. Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and kick us off officially. Welcome to April's Earth Bishop Chess Club. For those of you who are new, I just want to explain what this meeting is about. It's not about politics. I named it Chess Club because my last name is Bishop, and I love either the metaphor of using our experience, this human experience, as a multidimensional chessboard of life. And so it's really about bringing all of our souls together, all of our consciousness together in a place where we can share safely and not be judged and share information and share experiences and connect with each other because the waking up process can be really isolating. And so this is a chance for us to come together in truth and in knowledge. And every other month, I like to bring on a guest, especially people who are doing really incredible things to help humanity and heal the planet. And that is exactly who I have on tonight. His name is Matthew Mournian, and Matthew is an energy healer. He's an author. His book is called Remember Your Mission. And he also is a practitioner of multidimensional tarot. And I first learned about Matthew from Rob Khalil at the Typical Skeptic podcast. And Rob was interviewing me and he mentioned my book. Oh, your book is Remember Your Torch. My good friend Matthew has a book or a website, Remember Your Mission. And he's like, you guys should meet. And then I looked up Matthew's work and I watched him on an interview doing his multidimensional tarot. And I thought, wow, this is great. I would love to have him on Chess Club. And I thank you, Matthew, for your time, for being here. I would love it to if we could start off with you just sharing a little bit about your background in your journey.
Yeah, totally. First off, thank you for inviting me. And yeah, also just thank you to David, which I know for me, he was a huge force in the early awakening journey, like massive, massive. So it's a strange and sad thing to behold. But yeah, thank you for asking me to be here. I guess this is always the weirdest and funnest part of whenever I do something like this because it's like you have to like define yourself in some weird way. And it's like every day that I ask myself, like, what is it that I'm actually doing? That's a really good question. But I would say my primary mission at this stage of the human journey is what I would call a professional psychic medium and energetic practitioner, and that includes anything from the intuitive readings that you probably saw on Rob's show, all the way down to what some people call attachment release or energy clearing, or there's a bunch of like really fun kind of like buzzwords, implant clearing, it's a very strange and murky realm. And so what I just learned is that over the past 9 years, that's literally all I have done. And so, at this stage, it's always like, how do we really define that? But lately, what I've noticed is over the past, I would say 2 to 3 years, it's sort of shifted roles into what I would call that of sort of an educator or Yeah, I guess we could call it a psychic educator, so to speak. I switched over into doing a lot of medical psychic work, which is always another murky, strange realm. And honestly, at this stage, like the most exciting thing is helping other people figure out what it is that you're here to do, what your skills are, what your abilities are, the way that your intuitive faculties work, which are always very, very different from everyone else, which is a really fun thing. And then what is it that we need to do in order to make them stronger? Because I'm a huge believer that every living being on earth has a very particular set of skills. And so anyway, before I go on and on, any like any comments or questions on that so far? Because I'll just like rant at you. I want to make sure. Are we
That's
good?
great. Can you talk a little bit about remember your mission and
Oh
how
yeah.
you were able to remember your mission?
So I'll cut directly to the story. And some of you guys out there have a really good you have a really wildly open third eye. I can literally feel it. So you're gonna get a good visual display in your inner world. I was going through in the year of 2015 what can only be described as a near catastrophic, I mean literally catastrophic Kundalini explosion in my body. I was working in what we might call traditional mental health at that stage of the journey, and I received some energy work randomly one day from this older woman at a homeless outreach fair for veterans, no less. And whatever occurred in that moment, I mean, I know now what it was. It was my crown chakra opening, but whatever occurred in that moment literally changed the course of my entire life. And it took me about 2 years to come down out of that wave of insanity. And right around summer of 2017, when I was really going through just so much change in my life, the only thing I could do was stand in my backyard and do qigong at the time, other than like go to work. I would just come home and literally cry and like do like qigong in my backyard. Like imagine me like back there just like weeping and like doing these weird movements. And I felt this explosion of energy inside my body that it felt like every voice I had ever heard kind of like crying out, and every piece of me and it was like a million strands and connections of energy exploded at the same moment. And I kind of like really lost my mind. I ran through my backyard. I tripped over this like big pile of dirty grass. Like, you know, when you have a pile of grass in your backyard and there's like spiders in it and shit. I like tripped into this weird thing of grass, and I remember hearing in my mind, it was crystal clear. It was Matthew, you have a mission. It is time to remember. And in those moments, it was as if I really thought I was losing my mind for 2 years. And that was the first stage in which I was shown within the mind's eye kind of the direction that I was going. And oddly enough, it was in this direction that I am now. I was just shown a whole other path in my life. And it was sort of like I was given a choice. No, it sounds very, like Starseed-esque and, kind of lame, to hear the story like this, but it was very much like I was given a choice. And in that moment, I said yes. And within, I would say 2 weeks, within 2 weeks of that day, I packed up everything I owned. I put it on the curb. I left a house I owned, a marriage I was in, a job that I had been in for 7 years, and I literally just left. I just drove away. I drove to Los Angeles, which was a horrible idea, but and that was when this stage of my life started. It was like one switch turned off and another one turned on, and suddenly, which is the weirdest thing, I'll stop after this, but it was like all of a sudden I started doing this work that I do now. Like literally a switch turned, which is a strange thing. But anyway, I will pause. I will pause there for any questions.
Oh, that's fascinating. I relate to that so much because I'm a walk-in and it sounds almost very similar
It
because I
was,
call it
yeah.
my moment of grace. Like all of a sudden it was like, okay, here's your mission. Literally, I use the same terminology. Here's what you're here to do. And it was centered very much around, bringing back natural healing, divine feminine principle, and bringing, an end to all of the suffering on this planet. And it was immediate. It was like there was a moment, and it's interesting how you describe the Kundalini experience. I was sharing this in my class last week. Everyone wants to open their third eye, but you have to understand this is so powerful. When it does open, you can be borderline psychosis.
Oh yeah,
You
I
need to
was.
learn how to dial it in and
Yeah.
out when you need it. You don't want to be walking around seeing everything all of the time because you'll get lost in that in-between space. Do
Oh
you
yeah.
agree?
Oh, very, very much. I was a living example of it for 2 years. I was going in and out of portals in my bedroom ceiling like constantly. It sounds, I mean, I've talked about this a million times now, so it's just like a story that I tell, but it was so bad in the early days that it was like I would walk past a person and just the smell and essence of their energy, something within me was so open. It was like I would get caught and entangled within their energy. And it went so far that it was like I could see what they ate for breakfast and I could see them putting on their clothes and like standing in front of the mirror shaving. And it was like utter insanity. It was so I had been open to the extent that I could stare at a speck on, like a wall. And if I did not watch out, if I stared at it too long, I would feel my entire consciousness getting pulled into this weird little piece of something in a wall. It was that bad. And I wish I could say I was the cool version of it. I wish I could say it was mystical and I was like, yeah, and I was floating in between all these worlds and but it wasn't. I really literally really thought I was losing my mind. And I think you kind of have to a certain extent, but so yeah, there's a real life psychosis thing that occurs along with that. But there's also the legitimate opening of a number of pathways within the body that sort of need to be open in order for us to do this work with great efficiency. I'm sure everyone here has noticed the overall trend within the sort of just soul group of people that a lot of people have this awakening journey. They start out doing a path of service or they get really into a certain thing. And then after a couple of years, it tends to fade. It tends to sort of leave in a certain sense. And in some cases, that's evolution. In some cases, that's just going through changes. And in other cases, it's that we need to continually supply energy to certain places in the body so that we can keep those things going. And I think in kind of looking back on one of the purposes of that experience for me was that I was shown was shocking, like shocking detail, the passageways and the path, like the pathways within the body, all the way down to the extent that I could tell you what like every single meridian actually sounded like within the body for a short time. I can't tell you that now, but I got so lost in it. It was crazy. But anyway, so yeah, there's both a good side and a bad side. I guess that's where I'm going
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, you're exactly right. And it's learning how to kind of control it,
Yeah.
and know the difference. So how did you get into the multidimensional tarot?
That's a fun question, and the answer is equally both kind of fantastical and sort of lame at the same time. I say lame because I try to be super realistic about this stuff, and the honest to God truth is that I never took a tarot class. I've never read a tarot book in my entire life. I've never even read through one entire little pamphlet in the back of a box of cards. At the early stages of the journey, I met a woman who was about 15 years older than I was, and she was a professional in her own right. And she was what I would call the only mentor that I've honestly ever really had, which is a sad story in its own way. But she was like really the only person that reached out and sort of helped me out. And my extent of tarot education was sitting at her house one afternoon with a yellow note, like a yellow legal notepad in my hand. And I was just asking her questions about the cards. And I would flip through cards and be like, give me a keyword for this or that. and she would just say something randomly, and like I wrote it down. And within a week, I lost the notepad until I somehow got an interview at this physical shop. It was this place in the greater Los Angeles area, still there, by the way, actual physical place. I was there for just over 2 years, and I got an interview to go work at the psychic shop. And the first ever reading I ever did in my entire life was spur of the moment for the woman that owned the shop. I just pulled out cards and was like, I just blurted out something, and she was like, okay, you're hired. And that was literally the beginning of me reading tarot. That was it. And so here we are. Let's see, that was 2017. Here we are now, and I've been I've been teaching it since 2019, which is kind of funny because I literally, I mean, never even read a book. In fact, we have a tarot class coming up on May 24th. But I think that I carried a lot of something from a past life in here, which I know for some people is always a big like can of worms. Like you, I do identify as a walk-in, although there's many variations of that, as I'm sure you know. And it's as if it was just activated in me. It was like it turned on, and all of a sudden I knew, and I could tell you like, oh, that card means this, and oh yeah, and here's what happens when it shows up in your life. And I honestly just trusted it, which is really, I think, one of the foundational elements when you start doing this type of work is that you have to come to a place of trust within the voice that you understand as spirit or God as you understand it or the higher self. There has to be like a very, very what I would call just for lack of a better word, strong relationship or a trusting relationship. And I would say one of the only ways in which I was aided in, being a child, so to speak, in this way was that I think, which is this, I will pause after this. I think it's always weird to say this at, this age. I, I realize now I was born with the gift of discernment, and it's been a thing that has been with me my entire life. It saved my life so many times over the years, and it was just something that sort of came with me. Like I always had that voice in some sense. And so anyway, I'm just kind of ranting at but
Yeah,
I'll
no,
stop.
the discernment piece is so important. Um, it's the foundation of truth. That's how we, figure out what's truth. And it is a skill, and tapping into knowing how to tap into your intuition is so important. And it's something that I would say the dark side is trying to come in between or create a barrier from humanity from tapping into their intuition with all of these electronics and all of the EMFs and everything we're bombarded with frequency technology all the time. But nothing is more powerful than the voice that comes from our heart and the gnosis of the soul and that automatic knowing that you have. And there was a question in the chat about are you a walk-in? So you do feel like there is a walk-in
Yeah, I would
experience.
say kind of yes to that, but at the same time, I don't really put a lot of weight or value in the over identification of that being something for me. Meaning that, like, yes, it's probably a factor. If I wanted to put a label on it, I would call it like a soul unbraiding of sorts. If you want to go into like the terminology, which, they're all kind of one and the same, but so I would say yes, but it's not a thing that I held on to. You know what I mean? It's not a thing that I decided to put on my multi-dimensional, like resume, like for the world for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I should. So I don't know.
Well, it helps, I think, just clarify. I don't like labels either. I think there's a almost a problem in the spiritual community with, labeling as a star seed or a walk-in or as a contactee because it feeds the ego and then it creates a false identification. But
Yeah,
it does kind of, when we're having conversations, it helps people understand the experience because having that flip
true.
switch overnight is wild. Like I said, I've experienced it, and I feel very similar to you where I like that you said it was like a soul unbraiding because for me it was almost like, well, just more of me came in, more of me became activated. It was like having 20 years of spiritual practice all of a sudden come online at one time. That's what it felt like. So I love that you explained it that way. So when you read cards, are you, how do you know what kind of deck are you using
Oh,
and
right.
what's your process?
Well, the only one that I use at this stage is called Robin Wood Tarot. This is if anyone out there wants to get it, I do recommend it because I think if you're trying to learn how to read tarot, there's about 200,000 different versions of it out there. And I think Robin Wood Tarot, that's just the artist name. She put a lot of cool symbolism in it that I think it gives you the meaning of every single card in the image in a way that the traditional tarot decks like Rider Waite, which is the one that most people see, it kind of goes one step beyond that. And which is kind of interesting because when I first started using the Robin Wood Tarot, I did not like it. And to be honest with you, I still don't really like the art design of it. I wanted something dark and like mystical, and I even tried to use the Aleister Crowley deck for a while, and I just couldn't. I couldn't like connect with it, and I couldn't. Wouldn't speak with me. You know what I mean? I just couldn't. And so I went back to Robin Wood, and so. I guess to answer what is the process that I go through? How does it work for me? At this stage, I would say I have created what we call a relationship with the characters in the world of tarot, which is a thing that we teach in the class. I don't use any astrology within my readings, not because I'm against it, just because I think I'm a really good example of just like a pure empath from the, perspective that I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at what is the feeling of the body and like what is it like telling us and what is the imagery telling us. And so I would say the majority of what I do within tarot is scrying. Like we're really looking at the images and allowing them to speak within their own sort of fashion. And I think the key to learning it really is to create a relationship with the cards, to begin to learn and to begin to find yourself within each one. After a while, you will notice they're your friends, your family members, they're people in your life. I think when we learn to identify them as characters in a movie that we are living, it allows us to kind of retain the knowledge of what they stand for in ways that are much different than the old sort of played out like definitions and, this means this and that means that. And when those two characters are next to each other, this is going to happen. I think because I never had any formal instruction in it, it was as if I was left to kind of like create my own way. And that's really the way that I've done it. We sort of like, just see what they have to say. I often use it within the context of a clearing session or like an overall session that people will come in and do with me from the perspective of what I would call getting a second opinion from spirit. It's like a lot of times in other work that I do, especially with like medical stuff, it's based upon honestly, the sound of the voice more than anything. I know that's a whole other can of worms, but I'm telling you, you guys, the sound of a person's voice contains an undertone that holds every organ and every pathway in their body. And if you can find them, you can hear exactly what's going on with the person. So that aside, the first step is usually we just kind of talk and I listen to what's going on within the body. And then we go to stage two, which is where we pull out tarot, and it's kind of like a second opinion. I have kind of an invocation where we sort of call in everyone's guides or the higher self, and we just pull a few cards. I don't do like what we would call traditional spreads, like for other tarot people out there, maybe they're familiar with that. They'll have like a sort of predetermined layout, this card is this in that direction, and over here on the right, that's the future, and over here on the left, that's the past. I don't really do that. I treat it more like a conversation that we're having. Yet, I guess I'll kind of go back on that. I do kind of use spreads from the perspective of I have like a few placements that will always tell me certain things. And so I don't know if I'm answering your question or going too far into like the weeds of how I read tarot, but does that
Yeah.
does that make any
Oh no,
sense?
I love that. I love that I love the explanation of the archetypes and the characters as like other people in your life, like acting out this universal movie that we're all a part of, this motion picture, that makes it easy to retain and remember,
Oh yeah.
and makes it land like into your everyday life.
Oh
So
yeah. You'll
we,
never ever forget them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, when we learn that way, it's different than just like reading something or memorizing it. It becomes more integrated. Um, so is the multi-dimensional piece, is this because you're pulling in guides or you're working with the higher self?
That's a smart question. I call it multidimensional tarot because one of the what I would call advantages of reading in the way that I do is that it allows us to look at a situation from any number of perspectives because I don't use a traditional system of mapping. Like I said, we treat it like a conversation, and in doing so, we realize that we have conversations with many aspects of ourselves, aspects of others. Even in the so-called layout of the cards, when you begin to look at it from what I would call like a multi-dimensional perspective, which is really just another way of saying we go backwards and forwards and in a number of different directions within, the way in information shows up. When you start to look at it from that perspective, and I know maybe this is getting a bit abstract for some of you guys, when you start looking at in that way, you realize that it's multidimensional because it encompasses many things all at the same time. And I would also say because one of the other things I do with it is I use it to diagnose blockages within the chakras. There's tremendous information about your organs within tarot. In fact, each most of the cards also point to an organ system, a meridian, or a chakra. So it gives us a different layer of kind of knowledge as well. And then I guess lastly, it's what I call the second gateway of real intuitive activation, which is when you learn to create a relationship, or rather a language with how you understand spirit. And for some people, they do it with tarot. Other people do it with oracle cards. Some people use a pendulum, which I'm not a really big advocate of. But the second gateway is where you create that actual language. And I think that's really where tarot comes in. It sort of gives us a language through which we can visually understand the messages that spirit is sending us. And so I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if I'd love to get the audience to participate and maybe do some readings.
Oh yeah, we can.
I would love for you guys to experience Matthew, this gift that Matthew brings. Is anyone want to go? Who's interested in having a card pulled?
I'll tell you the way that it works really quickly
Yeah.
while everybody gets in line. We do this every month, myself and my wife in our a Patreon group, and I always say just say something about a reading in the chat, and I'll skim through the chat and we'll see. I'll just pick somebody at like random, or we can do it another way. But
Okay. Yeah, that works. And I saw, well, let's start with Shelly because I saw her hand go up.
okay,
So,
cool.
and Shelly's kind of an OG here, so I want to get her on.
There you go. Lisa also got it as well. Exactly. Kelly, did you have a question? It's okay if you have a short question, or I can just pull a card for you randomly.
Myself, do I have a question?
Yeah.
Um, yes, I do. I started a new job in the last 2 weeks, and I every day I come home, I am just wiped out, totally drained, and I can't figure out what is draining my energy.
Yeah. Okay. 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 And so the question is, what might be causing this energy drainage? What can we know about it?
Is there any way I should protect my? I try to protect myself with the golden liquid love and light in all my auric fields and my body and the vehicle I'm driving at work for the job and
Nice. Did it work for you?
not 100%, no.
It's okay. It never actually worked for me either. Just so you know, I've never,
Okay.
no, for real, I've never been able to do the, okay, here we go. I'm going to make a column of light. Boom. Now I'm protected. You know what I mean? I've, I've never been so lucky to have that experience, but I know some of us are. Anyway, yeah, let's see what shows up. And really quickly, I don't want to take up too much time, but I'm going to talk very, very quickly about how do I connect with people when we're doing these types of readings, because I think that's critical for other people who are learning how to do this in their own way. And one of the simplest ways to do it is it's sort of like you take a breath of a person's energy. And so what I'll do, Kelly, is I'll count from 3 to 1, and you and I will just take a breath in together at the same time, like a team. Just a
Okay.
3, 2, 1, breathe in. You can just hold it for a moment and then drain it all the way out. Press that breath out of your body. There you go. Good job. You can return to normal breathing. As we honor all those of you assisting in this now moment. I'm gonna go outside of tarot starting out, just because I could feel you. Thank you for opening up. It feels as though you're gathering cortisol in the body, partially because you're overqualified for something. You know a lot more than many other people there. You could probably be doing their jobs for them, but you do have a lot of just absorbency within your auric field, and I think you're pulling in other people's like cortisol reaction and other people's stress. And then also I think because you're just starting a new pathway in a sense, it's like there's an opening down at the bottoms of the feet, which is normal with what we would call the Earth Star chakra when you whenever you have like a timeline change, which we could call a new job a timeline change, I would say. It's like something has to open up and then reconnect itself with the earth. So I would say from a simple perspective, you could take stuff like ashwagandha if you're into that. That'll probably help with stress response and cortisol. But secondly, I would say use your voice, stomp your feet. Be sure to fully exhaust your emotional body. I could go on and on, which I'm going to try not to do. But you have a tremendous ability to sort of shed whatever it is that you've picked up from there. It's just I think sometimes we need to be like reminded of it. I would say that's one takeaway for you. Like you're far stronger than the majority of people around you. I'll bet you know it in your own way. You know it too. You're like, yeah, I know. Fuck, But anyway, okay, so I don't take up too much time. I'm just gonna pull a card for you really, really quick. Here we go, and then we'll move on. 3, 2, 1. We'll see it live together. Who knows what's coming out? Boom. Oh, okay, you got an Eight of Pentacles. This is cool. This is a good moment for everyone out there trying to understand tarot. The Eight of Pentacles shows up in your life at a time in which the first thing you need to know about yourself is nobody can look at you and say you're fake. Nobody would ever do that. This is one of the most productive, one of the most stable, sometimes the most isolated energies out there. Let's say if you were beginning a new thing, starting a new business, wondering, is there still value that I have to exchange with the world? The answers are a really huge yes, but you have to be careful to not do the same thing over and over again and expect it to be different. Because that's the downfall of the Eight of Pentacles. They'll just keep doing a thing over and over again, and everyone will look at it and go, damn, you're really good. Look at you. You've been doing it over and over again. Look at them. They're all over your wall. And then you stare at it long enough and you realize, like, oh, it's kind of all the same thing with a different color. So just don't expect the same thing at this stage of your life. And the last thing I'll say is show yourself to the world in a different way. That's the problem for Eight of Pentacles. They have to be willing to climb out of a box or out of some sort of a enclosure that they've like put around themselves. And so, anyway, I'll stop there. I feel like I'm going on too long. I hope it helps.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Totally, totally.
Great. Um, Thanks, Shelley. And I see Lisa.
Yeah,
Lisa would
let's do it.
like a reading. Let's do it. For those of you who don't know Lisa, Lisa is a friend of mine here in Atlanta, and she's actually, I wrote about her in my workbook. I have a self-healing workbook called Reignite Your Flame. And I mention her because she is really talented and has a gift with homeopathic remedies. And she helped me when one of my dogs passed away last September, and I was really going through a lot of grief. And oh, Lisa has such a big heart. And she really helped me through that. So thank you for being here tonight, Lisa. And
Oh,
go ahead and share what. And my other dog is here, and he's snoring really loud. You guys can't hear that, can you?
no.
Okay, I have the noise filter on, so but he's snoring. So anyways, Lisa, uh, go ahead and share what you'd like a reading on for tonight.
Yeah. Thanks,
Go
Katie. I
for it.
appreciate that. I have been trying to get to chess club for a long time. But yeah, like Katie said, I work in the healing space. I do homeopathy. I'm a somatic healer, a life coach. I work with people who have anxiety and overwhelm, stress, emotional trauma, all that kind of stuff. And I think I am feeling, I'm feeling right now, I'm not entirely sure how to describe it. Like, I love what I do, but I feel like there's some clarity that I maybe don't have. And I'm not sure if that is work related or if it's life related. But I sort of feel like I'm not 100% grounded, or that there's a weightiness that is not allowing me to really get into flow.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Okay. How would you phrase that into a question? Like if you were going to ask a question about that, what would it sound like?
Oh gosh.
Maybe what is
You're
it
doing
that
it,
can be known
you're doing a
about?
coach thing on me here.
Oh, am I? No,
Oh,
it actually just helps. It helps me know where to go because as I'm
yeah, yeah,
sure you
yeah.
can tell, I'll just talk at you. So
No,
like me,
no,
yeah.
it's great. No, I think it's like what is it that I am not clear on?
Okay.
What is it I'm not clear on in terms of either the direction or what I'm doing for my work, or is it a life thing?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's smart. I get you. I get
Is,
you. Okay.
does that frame it up better for
Yeah,
you?
yeah, it does. I kind of already had it. I was just wanted to be sure like what direction we were going. Okay, so we're just really quickly, you're gonna close your eyes with me, and everybody knows what their front door looks like. Everybody knows it's the door that you enter your house into every day. So you're gonna walk up to your front door, you're gonna open it up, see your hand on the doorknob, open up that front door, step inside, close the door after you. Very good. You can lock it if you choose, just for safety purposes. And I'd like you to just take a slow breath in and release it whenever you're ready. Just press all your breath out. Okay, well, I could start with the heaviness part. I can tell you just one piece of it, which is good because sometimes it goes slowly, sometimes it goes fast. Like when I start to, like feel into people's energy and it seems like it's going quickly. Um, Work with your lymphatic system. If you're not already doing like lymphatic massage, it feels like you've done a tremendous amount of work in those areas, but it feels like there's sort of like, I hope this isn't too personal. There's a lot of emotional expectations and sort of ideas about the way you thought it was going to be kind of tied up in certain areas of the body, namely behind the knees, in the corners of the groin, kind of around the midsection. And it's not necessarily in a way that I would call toxic. It's not like some sort of like a health issue. It's what I would call like empathic kind of bleed over or just gathering of energy in the body, the way fluid will gather in certain places. So I guess if you're asking the question of, is this a professional thing? Is it a life thing? It sort of feels like a combination of both of those at the same time, but more so, I would say just circumstances and relationship factors within your own personal life, things that you've kind of like allowed to sort of sit and lie there for a certain period of time. There's just some uncovering and feeling into that, and probably just a lot of processing that can be done about that. which to me is a good thing because those are all things we're in control of. You know what I mean? It's like, yes, so you're telling me I can process and release emotional, frequencies from the body that are keeping me in this sort of heaviness state. To that, I would say yes. Um, and there we go. Nice,
Now you
nice.
might
So
be able to hear us.
somebody agrees, hopefully. And yeah, I hope that makes sense. I'm gonna pull a card for you. And here we go. And who knows what's gonna come out, right? We're gonna see it together in real time. What does she need to know about this energy situation? Three, two, one. Oh, okay. Whoa, complex answer. Congratulations, you've received the lovers, which is genuinely complex. So, first off, it's about the way we relate with ourselves. It's about our primary relationships. It's about the way we share love, the way we receive love. If it's a channel in your body, if it's a place that you'll devote your energy to healing or opening up, it's going to be your pericardium channel, which, for those who don't know, it's the most related to intimacy, love, how we love, who we love, the way we love, the way we connect with people in this world. It has so much to do with those things. And it's funny because I can tell by the sound of your voice, you have a very, very strong one. So there might be a little bit of disarming that will have to go on, but there's a path of acceptance and there's a path of realization that will come to you when you really begin working with elements of your masculine self and your feminine self, which to sort of make it more simple, you'll be asking yourself at this stage of my life, what does it mean to be a woman? What elements of masculinity am I holding on to? How much am I holding on to? How much have I come to terms with things like hormonal changes or age related factors as I see myself going along the human journey? Because the lovers will bring all of those things into your life and a lot more. The last thing I'll say is, let's just say if you were looking for a relationship or if you were trying to work on romance in your life, it's a very good omen for that. Just remember to accept people as they are. There's a certain path of radical self-acceptance that comes with the lovers. And anyway, I'll stop there. I feel like I've been rambling at you. I hope it made sense.
Thank you.
Totally.
Thanks, Lisa. Let's go to Estelle.
Okay.
You're on mute, Estelle. So let's see. Or there you
Okay.
go.
Okay.
Greetings.
Greetings. Thank you so much. I'm a registered nurse, but I haven't been able to work for, I'd say, the past 8 years. I had some sort of a vibrational attack on my body, and I've been dealing with this where I feel like I get rid of it. I heal my body, but then it comes back. So I've kind of been feeling like maybe it's because I'm looking elsewhere and I'm not looking inward for me to heal myself. Maybe that's the lesson in this, why it keeps coming back. I don't know. But I did go on, Matthew, on your website, and I did purchase the video, and I started doing Tai Chi, and it actually made my symptoms worse. But I was able to settle it down by working on myself a lot today.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, maybe that means you shouldn't be doing Qigong just yet if it's making you worse. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. So was there more? I didn't mean to cut you off. Was there something more you were going to say there?
Well, I guess my question is, do I just need to heal myself, or can I still look to other people to help me rid my body of this?
I hear you. I can tell, I can hear it in your voice. You're pretty low in blood at the moment. Anything you can do, even if it's just eating beef or meat, you know what I mean? Any supplementation you can take, You can take folate, you can take iron, you can take B12, you can take papaya seed extract. Along with low blood also comes low life force energy, which is probably why, or one of the reasons why you've been getting sick over and over again. But so I would say prioritize building blood in the body right now, and I would also say prioritize glutathione. You can even buy glutathione on Amazon and get it in a couple days, and I have a pretty good feeling that's gonna at least help with inflammation within the body and hopefully bring a little bit of energy into you. But I would say this is a time for heavy processing. This is a time for opening of the heart. This is a time for releasing the waves of trauma and speaking about the things that you did not speak about or that you've held inside for, maybe your whole life or the past few years. It feels like there's a lot of emotional kind of toxicity, maybe within the lungs, although it just feels like it's sort of spread without. And I would say to go back to the answer of your question before I pull a card, I would say this is the time to really prioritize your own self-healing. And I could see you turning a corner within 3 to 6 months if you did a few things differently, and especially, I would say, processing. There's something that needs to be spoken or released vocally from you. Maybe it's just talking about all the energy that you've absorbed. And then, I guess, lastly, for anyone that's worked in the medical area in any form or fashion, you're going to be a major empath. So you're
Yeah.
gathering, you're gathering tons of energy from other people. And everybody forgets there has to be a way in which we release it. How
Yeah.
do we release it? So maybe this is just the time to think about it in the background. Like, how do I release energy? How do I release negativity? What are my methods? You know what I mean? And if you don't have any, it might be time to look at them. But anyway, before I rant on and on, I would say your prognosis is good if you prioritize glutathione and blood production. And now that I've said that, let me pull a card for you. Here we go.
Thank you.
And three, two, one. Oh, oh, there we
All
go. It's a three of swords. Everyone sees this one and they're always like, oh, you know what I mean? Because you see it and it's like a heart and the swords are stabbed through it and it looks very grim. And what does it mean for real? When you have a three of swords in your life, it is time to deal with the matters of the heart. It's emotional pain, it's energy lodged within the body in some form or another. The good news is swords aren't physical. Well, usually, usually they're not physical. They tend to be mental. They tend to be words. They tend to be thought forms. They tend to be sometimes events. And when you have three of swords, there's a bit of it lodged within the heart, and it can create great pain. It doesn't kill you. It's not meant to kill you. It's not that type of a wound. It just keeps us sullen, sad, melancholy, isolated, depressed by ourselves in some way. And so I would take this as a confirmation that your mission right now is to heal the heart and to just start talking about old traumas in any way you can. It will definitely make you stronger.
okay.
And
Okay.
anyway, I will stop there. I hope it helps. Hang in.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So it's not an entity, it's emotions.
I think you've probably come in contact with entities. I mean, if you want to get technical, everybody has in some form at some point. I would say just based upon the way that you present here, which, granted is very limited in form and or limited in scope, and we're just talking about a few things. You don't sound like, and nor do you feel like you have something actively feeding on you. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not, but what I've learned over the past few years of doing this is that I would say if you want to put a number on it, which sometimes is dumb, but 7 out of 10 people, it's almost always blocked up emotional energy or trauma or thought forms or belief systems or sometimes just pure energy from other people that we take on in this life. And then,
Okay.
the rest of those cases, I would say even greater than entities would be the effects that we receive from earth-based, what some people would call like ghost spirits, you know what I mean? Things of the lower astral plane. And then I would say last place is where it would come to entities or something feeding off you. But that said, it's very possible that you could have energetic parasites. Um,
Okay.
that's definitely possible. But I would say for right now, prioritize blood and glutathione.
Thank
And
you so much. So
yeah,
much. Thank you.
yes, yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks,
Cool.
Estelle. Okay, so I see Stacy and James. James, did you have a question or do you want a reading?
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
Well, kind of both. Um,
Go ahead, and then we'll end with Stacy.
okay, cool. So, Matthew, I went out of town for a few weeks, and then I came back and I went to my yoga class, and it totally wiped me out for like 3 days. I was so tired, and ever since then, I felt pretty tired. I mean, I went to yoga today, and I really didn't feel wiped out like I did last time. But I'm just wondering if you can perceive anything that's misaligned in my body or anything like that.
Yeah, you've done a lot of work on something in your life. I can tell you that much. The version of you that sits here today is very, very different from the version of you that would have been sitting here 3 to 5 years ago. And I feel that somebody that watches over you wants you to know that they're very proud of how far you've come and the choices that you've chosen to make in terms of changing your perspectives, your values, your belief systems. It feels that you've done a lot in those areas. And so anyway, I think I was supposed to get that out. Now that I've said that, um, yeah, let's feel into it. It feels like you're kind of in a little, this will sound a little bit star seedy, which is what sometimes I say in a making fun kind of way. I would say from a general perspective, you are in what some would call an upgrade phase, which is kind of a catch-all term for a period in which the auric field is open and sort of porous and growing, kind of like what happens in springtime, you know what I mean? Everything kind of comes back to life and plants start growing again, birds kind of come back. There are seasons of growth and activation that take place within the energy body. And I would say you're in one of those right now where it's like you're probably going to be hyper absorbent in some ways, but honestly, it feels like you're doing well. I don't perceive what I would call any major kind of like, yeah, it doesn't feel like there's anything really hanging on or anything actively draining you. Maybe just kind of like you dealing with the energy of the day and learning how to, conserve your focus and how much you put out there. Which I don't know, maybe that's the answer you wanted to hear, maybe not, but it feels like, yeah, I would put you in an upgrade cycle, which is cool because it means you're going to be perceiving more of something. It can also be awkward because it can lead us into like emotional kind of ups and downs in a weird way. Or anyway, before I rant at you too much, I'll pull a card for you before I go all over the place here. Okay, here we go. In three, two, one. Oh, hello. You've got a three of wands. This is a fun one. And before we start talking about this card, if anyone out there, because this is a thing that happens, this is multi-dimensional tarot. In the readings that I'll be giving other people, you'll suddenly think, could that also be about me? No, it's probably not. That's got nothing to do with me. No, it does, and it is. That's the multidimensionality of it. You'll kind of just get this feeling like it applies to an area of your life, and that's because it does. But that's also why I'm holding up this card because I think this applies to more than just you, James. You have a three of wands, and it holds a rare place in the world of tarot. It's one of the only short-term change in indicators that we have, meaning its job is to inform you that you need to keep your eyes on the horizon. There's options, there's changes, there could be people, there could be events. Notice I'm keeping it very open. That's because we can't tell what's in those ships that are approaching you in the harbor. Hopefully, that's not too blurry on your screen. But that's you standing there looking out over the water, and there's something approaching you. It's not here yet. But this is a very reliable thing for what we would call a season of physical change, where it's like a person will show up into your life, or an option, or a direction, or I have to be really honest with you, even potentially a problem, because it could be junk on those ships. It could be, you know what I mean? There's no guarantee what it is. The guarantee is that something's coming your way, and the best thing you can do right now is keep your eyes on the horizon and become physically investigative, which is the key. You have to be willing to go there and meet it in a way that you don't normally do with the Three of Wands. When you do so, it just opens the door for potentially really cool things, potentially kind of like dead ends as well, you know, to be totally real. But I would say just be mindful of the next few months. To me, it feels like a fun thing, but maybe that's because I'm choosing to make it fun, you know? So, yeah, hopefully it'll actually stay that way. But yeah, this is a good omen for your future, I would say. Anyway, I will
No,
pause.
that's excellent, Matthew. Thanks. And the whole reading you did really resonates with me.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
So thanks.
Yeah, these readings are amazing. Thanks,
Thank you.
James.
It's
And speaking of it all, the cards being pulled, they can affect everyone here, or there could be a message for everyone. So I have one thing that came through was to not give up on the Tai Chi or the Qigong. Sometimes when we're healing, there can be a little bit of an expansion or a explosion of the problems. It's almost like they expand and then they contract. So um, Tai Chi and Qigong is so healing, and there's a synchronicity with the blood that Matthew was mentioning, because the instructor I've seen here, he got into Tai Chi to cure a blood disease, and it worked. And now
Wow.
he got so into it because that's what set him off. It was a blood disease that he cured with Tai Chi and Qigong. So don't give up on that.
Okay.
I think there's something there for you. There could be more healing with that, just so you know.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. All
I
right.
agree. I agree. Thank you
Yeah.
for saying that. You probably got a little bit of that, as they call it,
Yes, that's
Herxheimer.
exactly what it was.
You know?
That's exactly what it
Exactly.
was.
And a lot of times before an entity clearing, um, the entity will almost like act out, and people will break out or have like a sinus infection or an autoimmune flare up. It's like
Yeah.
right
Yes.
before it leaves, it will flare up really bad. So just don't let that be a deterrent. Um,
Thank you.
Sure. Let's end with Stacy.
Cool.
Stacy is a true OG. Stacy, I think you were at the very first chess club I ever did almost 2 years ago. So, thanks for being here
Okay.
tonight.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, great. Oh, thank you, Katie. I was gutted I missed the last one as well. I love these chess clubs, and this one's been so fascinating as well. Like they all are so interesting. Um, Hi, Matthew. I didn't have a specific question. I just felt to ask you if you could pull me a card, please. I mean, some of the things as well that you were saying with others, and it was great that you brought that up about when you say stuff, how it can also sort of resonate with others as well. So, yeah, I was kind of feeling that as well a bit with some of the things that you were saying, and Katie as well. But yeah, I was just feeling to ask you if you could pick me a card, please.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Let's just pause for a quick moment. I'll count from 3 to 1, and you and I will take that breath in together like a team. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. You can just hold it for a moment and then drain it out of your body. And there's your throat. Um, I'll just start out by making a very gentle observation of your energy field. There is a lot more truth power, we could say, communication, we could say, messages, if you want to go there, that you have access to that are kind of sitting within you. Maybe they're brewing up, maybe they're just kind of well folded and all put away, but you have a lot of power within the throat. You might have a stage in coming up in which you're going to be asked to speak with greater, what's the word, determination. Or maybe it's just a thing that you've had your whole life. Maybe it's also that. But there's just, as soon as I kind of go toward you or feel into your auric field, there's a lot of throat-based energy. And then I would say probably a lot of thymic chakra energy, which is right in between your lungs, right at the top of your collarbone, um, which is famous for being a holding ground for other people's emotions. And it's weird because I feel like I've been very focused on talking about people that have gathered emotions here today. But that might be one of the things that you might be holding on to, thought forms, possibly. I do think you have a really good ability to kind of insert yourself mentally in another person's internal space. Some people would call that telepathy. There's many versions of it. You have a good, you can insert yourself well within a person's mental body. So use it wisely. I'm sure you know that in some way. And if you don't know it, have faith in yourself. And let's say if you are experimenting with that, try aiming your communications at the backs of people's ears. I'll say that for everyone here that's learning to use telepathic frequencies. There's certain areas on the energy body that are very porous and very open. And when you know where those are, it allows you to kind of focus yourself in a different way. So I would say focus behind the ears, kind of like you're whispering over someone's shoulder. If you keep practicing it, it will definitely work. Just be careful what you wish for, because someday you might do it accidentally, angrily, and people will feel it. That's kind of the byproduct of it. But anyway, let me pull your card before I rant on and on. I realize we've been here for a while. Here we go. For those of you with Stacy, three, two, one. Boom. Oh, you have a Four of Wands. Okay. This is a complex moment in the world of multidimensional tarot. And when you look at it, hopefully you can tell it looks like this couple dancing in a little square, and they're somewhere out in the countryside, and they're just doing this dance, and you're like, okay, great. What does this have to do with me? Is this a romance thing? Is this something else? It's a lot of stuff, actually. First off, every four in the world of tarot is a pause. Sometimes we pause to rest, sometimes we pause to wonder. This is the one where we pause to connect and we pause to repeat or to begin to practice something in a new way. And it's all about how you initiate relationships, all kinds of them, the way you are connected with people, what you choose to share with others, the very, what we might call unique, quote unquote, dance that you've learned to do with other people in this life. When you have a Four of Wands in your life, you're being given an opportunity to greatly refine your like approach and the way you interact with people. It comes with strange suggestions like transactional relationships, beginning new projects, things that you have to practice and repeat over and over and over again, things that you'll do behind closed doors in order to better yourself or learn how to connect with people in a new and different way. There's a lot that gets kind of tied up in it. Just note that if there hasn't been a lot of stuff going on in those areas of your life, meaning relationship, how you connect with people, the way you kind of operate in the social sphere, so to speak, and maybe even through the lens of work. Let's just say, because I know there's a lot of areas of your life. If there hasn't been a lot of stuff going on in those areas, that's kind of normal for the stage of fours. Whenever you're in a stage of four, like something is going to be quieter or happening less often. And it's to give you room so that you can build yourself into something else. And so I might be going, way too far here, but it kind of ties in with the throat thing I was saying about you. There's something that needs to be communicated with greater determination within you. And I think when you do so, you'll notice the balance of whatever this represents in your life, because it could mean a lot of things to a lot of people, right? Everyone here is going to see this and they're going to get their own idea. which is also very important in the world of tarot. It'll change how you experience whatever this represents. And anyway, I'll pause there. I hope that makes sense, and I hope it helps in some way.
Oh, thank you so much. The red and green stood out on the card. I don't know why, but yeah, red and green. Mm.
Red being the root chakra, maybe. Possibly green being the heart. We could go we could go into a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
symbolism with those. I would say also generating safety within yourself so that you can be the most authentic version of yourself is a big factor for the Four of Wands. But anyway, I will stop there. Otherwise, I will literally keep talking about this for hours. So
Made sense though. Thank you.
totally. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. And thank you so much, Matthew. This was fascinating.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Just fascinating. So, can you remind everyone where they can get your book, the title, and your website?
Yes, yes. So first off, I released a book in June of 2024. It's called Remember Your Mission. What if you're not crazy? What if you're psychic? I called it that because that was literally what they said in my head, and because I literally thought I was crazy. And the funnest part about it is it's the most unedited book on Amazon, probably. I learned that after I published it. So anyway, that is available on Amazon. And then this is the only work I do in this life. And so you can always find me at rememberyourmission.com if you want to book a session, if you want to do a reading, if you want to start understanding like what's going on with my system, how can I get stronger? Is there anything that I can do to open up intuitive faculties? That is kind of what I've been specializing in lately. And then I guess lastly, we have a tarot class starting on May 24th, just about 1 month, where we do it every year. It's probably the funnest class I get to do because all I do is talk about tarot for like 3 hours every Sunday. So you can join us if you guys want to. I guarantee you, you will definitely learn how to read cards. There's people out there that are reading professionally within our soul group that have taken this class that are making it work. So it's like it's past the point of being like, I wonder if that's real. It's like it's definitely working. So um I think that's it, right? Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah, thank you for having me here. I really appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matthew, and thank you everyone for participating. And what I'll do is I'm going to post this on YouTube if you want to watch the recording. And then next month we'll probably not be recorded. We'll do one of our group discussions and our Q&As, and I don't record that. And that is just to protect everyone's privacy and make everyone feel safe in sharing. So, but I will have the Zoom link and all of the information on earthbishop.com if you want to join. So thank you everyone for being here tonight. And check out Matthew's work. It's wonderful. And Matthew, I have something I want to tell you before we sign off.
Cool.
All right, enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. And thanks so much for being here.
Boom. Thanks, you
Thank
guys. Take
you.
care.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.